Just as soon as Councilor Cheney gets. The hour being 6 o'clock. Okay.
I wonder if we push the mayor's mic back.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I think we know it's 6 o'clock. I call to order the meeting of the Laconia City Council meeting budget hearing, May 28th, 2024, 6 PM, the City Hall, Armand Baldic City Council Chambers. Before we go any further, I would ask Councilor Felch if he would lead us in the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Felch.
You are welcome.
We are joined by Recording Secretary, Katie Gargano. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Cheney,
Here?
Counselor Susie,
Here.
Counselor Hoffman,
Present.
Counselor Haynes,
Here.
Counselor Bogert,
Here.
Counselor Felch.
Present.
Okay, we're also joined by City Manager Kurt Beatty and Glenn Smith, our Finance Director and IT Guru. First thing tonight is the Water Department presentation. Ben Crawford?
Good evening, everybody. Ben Crawford with,
Yeah, that's fine, Ben. I just wanted the council to know that I spoke to Ben prior to the start of the meeting, and he can be interrupted for questions as we proceed. Go ahead, Ben.
mine's a fairly formal, no, is this not? A little closer. All right, can everybody hear me all right now? So, fairly informal presentation. I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm just going through the budget book that you guys have. I start on page 86 is where the water department starts. So what I'll do, as was mentioned, if you have anything that comes up through the presentation, just stop me and I'll try to answer it as we go, and we can also come back to it at the end if need be. I believe there was 2 others after me, so we're gonna try to do the 20-minute mark is what the others and I had talked about. So I'll start right off with page 86, which is our revenue page. This is where we're making our money, and as I've mentioned in previous years, we're an enterprise fund, so we're working out of our own water sales, nothing to do with tax caps and tax dollars coming in. It's all based upon water sales. Does everybody have the pages before I go into it? All right, so the first one that we have there, water billing, residential and commercial, that's our biggest moneymaker. That's where, we're selling the water and we're bringing in based upon base rate, based upon how many units there are, as well as our water consumption rate, so how much you're using. So what we did here is we kept the consumption the same as last year's budget, or the current budget we're in. We haven't seen declining water sales lately. We had seen that for the years prior, so we've been kind of curbing that number back. But with the development, there's newer units that, they have the water smart toilets and dishwashers and things like that, but there's more of them. So we're starting to see it level out. I don't want to say plateau, because we're at kind of the bottom of our curve of water use, but we're not continuing to drop. We have seen a large increase in units, so that's why there is a slight increase in the budget on there. We based that upon almost 200 units additional in the past year, so we based it off of the actual units. We don't prepare for any more. Those come in the next budget year. And then also on revenues, just a couple other ones that had changed, that had gone up considerably. If you look at the labor and inventory sold, about halfway down on the top half. We've been doing a lot more subcontract work, if you will. So when people need a water service replaced or installed, we'll do some of that. So we're selling our labor, so our employees are doing the work, and also the materials that we're selling to the customers doing that. Yes?
Now, would that include the line from the street to the house, installing those and stuff? And doing the replacement work if there's some of the older pipes have?
Yep.
Okay.
So for example, right now we're on Old Prescott Hill Road installing a water main up there. I don't know if anybody's been up that way towards Belmont, but we're installing water services to some lots on the edge of the road, and we get paid for those. So we're putting them in. If they tie onto them now, they pay, as they tie on. or we keep them in a spreadsheet for a payback later on, so we'll get paid for the work that we do and the materials that go in the ground.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that's the top half of total revenues. The second half, additional income, you'll see the first item, interest on savings. That's a large jump right there from 10 to 50,000. Reason being, we moved a lot of money into a savings account a year or so ago, so we've seen that interest climb quite a bit. We have about $500,000 in a savings account right now, so that's why that number has gone up. We're currently at about 100,000 this year, so again, not knowing what the rates will do next year, we didn't go completely high, but we kept it at 50,000, so it was an increase, but not overshooting there. But overall, the total income, we're up about 4.33%, which is to match our expenses. We'll get to that. The one item in here that we fluctuate depending on where the expenses fall is the funds transferred from savings. It's about halfway through that second paragraph or second section. You'll see that's at 160,000. So what that number is there for is to make our budget in the black. So if everything went 100% according to budget, we would be spending more than we're making, so we're actually taking money from our savings account to fill in the O&M budget. We haven't had to do that the last year or two when we've actually budgeted for it, but we put it in there to make the budget look flush on this side. And if we do actually get to that point, we have the money in savings to move over.
It's a placeholder.
Yes. Yep,
Thank
and we
you.
don't take that until we need it.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If I may ask one other question, interest on savings, is that deposited in a bank, or is that like in a PDIP fund, or?
I believe we have some still in the PDIP as I believe there's one as a reserve, but we moved some money to just a savings account, I believe, is that one. We kind of followed with Glenn on this one a year or two ago, maybe.
Yep,
Money.
and a lot of it is in PDIP, some of it is in B and H.
So
Thank you.
there's some in each, when we do our,
You spread it around.
yeah, so we have, our checking account for operating expenses, we have the PDIP, we also have that CMA fund, our construction and maintenance assessment, which is a kind of when you buy into the system, you're putting money into there, and that can only be used for system-wide improvements, not, simple little here and there items. Any other questions on revenues before we move to expenses? Okay, so I will go on to the next page, 87. On these, what I'll do is they're kind of broken down into different sections. I'll just give you a quick summary at the end of each section. I won't bog you down line by line, but if anything jumps out to anybody, feel free to jump right in. The first one, salaries. So we're following a 3% cost of living increase on there, which is what we've been working off of right through. So that's why that number is up. It's up about 4%. We also had longevity had gone up because we redid that last year. We kind of reformatted that. So that went up a little bit. So that's salaries, overall about 4% there. Next section is production expenses, which is what we are calling our water treatment, the water plant. So anything up there, you're producing water. Obviously we're not making water, but we're treating it to be potable and sellable. So that's what that whole section is there. If you look, it's 5 or 6 up from the bottom, supplies, water production. That's our chemicals that we use to treat the water. That one came up last year. If you recall, that number jumped considerably due to costs. We did join on with a chemical consortium, so basically a purchasing alliance with others in the state. So we do get a better price than if we just bought it privately. It is still considerably more than what it was 2 or 3 years ago, but we're in that consortium getting the best pricing we can. Same as like a Manchester or Meredith.
May I
Sure.
ask? Going back up to expenses under salary, are you fully staffed, or are you?
We are not. So we were down one. We've been down one person for just over a year. It was about last January we had a kind of a switch. One person moved, and then it was kind of a trickle-down effect. We hired from within. So then we had an entry-level position open, which has been open for a year. And then our mechanic/equipment operator, his last day was last Friday. So we're currently down 2 people, one of which is very recent.
Do the numbers projected here take into account those 2 positions so that they're funded?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep,
thank
so
you.
we factor it on a fully staffed, or fully,
Okay,
and also with insurances when we get to that too.
Yep.
We'll plan on our 2 new hires when they come on. We plan for a family plan on those so that we plan for the highest, if you will.
thank you.
Yep. Anything else on those 2? The salaries or production? All right, let's Page 88 starts off with distribution expenses. This is the other side of things. This is what you see out in the streets, the guys with the backhoes and the excavators, working on the hydrants, things like that. Overall, it actually went down slightly, about 3%. Majority of that was from the maintenance of mains, third item down. As we put in more pipe in the ground and newer pipe, we're seeing less and less breaks, which is a good thing. I mean, don't like to be superstitious, but as we put in newer pipe, we do see fewer breaks, so we're hoping that number continues to decline. Billing expenses are up. I mean, dollar-wise, it's only 6,000 over the whole category, but the majority of that is, we have electronic billing now, so there's another yearly fee for that, which is about 5,700, so that's the majority of that. And we started that this past year. We started electronic billing as an offering.
Ben, I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna go back one page for a second.
Sure.
You've got, in the budget book, it shows holidays, vacations, sick time, there's nothing there. Where's that money?
That's all in regular salary, so that's all factored in. Everybody has a 40-hour week. We have no part-time staff, so it's all full-time. There's a few of us that are salaried, but it's all based on 40-hour work weeks.
And vacation, to follow up if I may?
Sure.
Vacation is part of that regular salaries number?
Yes.
It's already included, and sick time and stuff is all there? Thank you.
Yep.
Good question. I was gonna ask, because I noticed they were blank.
We had a lot of discussion about that at the commission meeting, okay, so.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course. All right, and then other expenses, this is, just that. It's other expenses, kind of ones that don't fit into a general category. Third one down, medical insurance, always point that one out. This year we had a big hit on that one. Ours came in at 14.6% as the increase, so we put that in there. And again, we factor on anybody new coming in being the highest level as a family plan, so that way if they come in as a buyout or a single or a double, we're not saving money, but not looking at that whole amount. We always find it easier to do it that way and to put in the max not to exceed number, because if they come in lower, it helps you out. If you try to skate by a little lower and then it comes in higher, it doesn't always work out in the end. And then one of the last ones, the reserve contingency fund, that's a number that we have, I think last year was the first year we did it. We no longer budget for that. We kind of took, I think we had 40,000 in there last year, and we more or less put it into items that would need it. The chemicals, the electricity, heat, things like that we know we were gonna use, and we knew were going up, rather than have just a base contingency item.
If I may,
Sure.
consulting fees, I noticed here that it's fairly new. What do we use consulting for?
That's more with a lot of the developments coming in now. If we have to have a third-party review on a set of plans, I'm sure you guys have seen it in different boards that you're on. There's been a lot of expansion and development, which is good. It's good for water sales, it's good for taxes, all that. But we don't have an engineering department, if you will. It's myself and one other gentleman in the office that go through them. So there's sometimes that there's things that are over our heads that we need to hire out for. $5,000 isn't much, but if we have to send a couple sets of plans out a year, that's kind of what that's for.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, next one is page 89, so there's another set of other charges. Biggest one here comes in is depreciation. That's obviously a number that continues to climb. That's based on all the piping and all the buildings and vehicles and everything we have in there. So that's climbing up closer to 900,000 now, which is the majority of that. Other charges going up from 929 to 958. Our total expenses, all right in the middle of the page, is up 4.35%. So again, we match that with the 4.33 on the income, the revenues that we had with the savings in there to kind of cover that. So we're looking at, on this budget, a 4.3% increase on our expenses. The net income and loss, just below that, it's $515. It's minimal. That's what keeps us in the black. Again, that's based upon that placeholder number of the savings transferred. And then that's expenses. Next page will be capital. I can go into that unless anybody has any questions on this. Okay. All right, so I believe it's page 90 in your book is capital items, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of these, again, in the purchases especially, are year over year. We keep them in there, so the first four are the same amount or within a few $1,000s what we had the past 3, 4, 5 years. The fifth one down, meter system upgrade though, that did jump. We had it at 20,000 last year. I think it was 10,000 the year before, and we're at 50 now. That, if anybody recalls, is we have a lot of brass meters out there that you cannot repair them, replace them, rebuild them anymore. You can't get the parts. So we were having to put in new meters, which isn't a bad thing. You get a better reading, more accurate out of them. So that 50,000 gives us about 300 new meters to go in. So basically we'll put it in, we'll charge it against ourselves, and that comes out of there. We have 7,000 plus meters in the system, so 300 is still just a drop in the bucket, but it's getting there if we work towards it year over year. Because to do a system-wide meter replacement is, I haven't even looked at it, but a couple $1 million. It would be an undertaking, so we're trying to chip away at it with our own staff year over year. We have a couple here that are installments. The treatment plant exterior upgrades, we're looking at some point doing the roof and also paving the road up to it, which is taking a beating over the winters, and that's also where our excavators, dump trucks, pipe delivery, all that goes through there. So it's a pretty heavily traveled road with some equipment going through there. The wet well rehabilitation, this is one that anybody that was on CIP, that was one that I brought up to the beginning of our list. That's the wet well is basically where our raw water comes from. From the lake, it goes into there. The raw water pumps take it and bring it up to the plant. And it's starting to not fail, but on the inside it's showing some wear and tear. It's just a concrete well, so we'd like to have that rehabbed. We've also come up in the past month now, we had one of our 2 raw pumps fail, so that's currently out, and we're working on that to get it together. So we may look at kind of reconfiguring this wet well rehab into a pump room project. It may become a bigger project, so we're gonna be looking at there's grants and loans to the drinking water, groundwater trust fund, things like that, because it may turn into a larger scale project than what we anticipated. But it's one of those ones too that we don't want to just do part of it and leave the other parts to fail on top of it and then just keep doing the same cycle over and over again. So that's that one there. The rest of them are fairly small, just the ventilation, aeration. I think we talked about that last time too, is all of our water storage tanks, trying to keep the water fresher in there. So we've installed mixers in almost all of them. Next step is to ventilate them and then get basically the stale water and stale air out of there. Projects we talked about with Public Works. We always try to work with them on what roads are happening so we don't get caught, either one of us, with a bad water pipe under a new road or an old road on a new water pipe, vice versa. Driftwood, we actually are moving up to this spring, so it's going to get done. Morningside, we're putting on hold for a little while, probably a year or two. But then Manchester Street, we're looking to do in the spring of '25. Church Street, we're gonna hold on, but we're adding in potentially Willow Street and Old North Main Street in portions. Again, based upon Public Works. If you go on Old North Main Street, you'll see they paved up to a certain point. The next part at the northern end will be done sometime later this year, so we're trying to take care of our pipe up there before that happens. So that's always kind of a moving target. I mean, we do this budget, we sat down, I think we did, December was the first time we looked at it, so planning 18 months out for construction projects is tough, especially before winter. They come out in the spring, you don't know what the roads are gonna look like.
The, Nina?
Sure.
As far as the construction, what we do is we get together with Wes, who's also on our board, and when they're gonna do work on a street, that's when we plan to do the same work with them. So that way they're only tearing up the street one time, okay? So that's one of the things we do. Secondly, some people have asked, what about, raising the rates and stuff like that, or when we're going to? Every month we chart out our revenues, what we're spending, and what our revenue is coming in, and we're watching where the extra, let's say the extra work might be done from, extra revenue might come from new developments. We're looking at that at least a year out, okay, and we chart that so we're trying to project when our rates would, if we had to change, would have to change. But as you see that we put some money, there's a fair amount of money in savings. We take some of that, put that in as a placeholder in case we have to. But the last time we had that discussion, we don't foresee anything for probably a couple of years. We just had one last year, and if we're gonna do one, we try and make sure, because the way we have to do it by the way it's always done from the water department, we're gonna publish this and set people know, do the public hearings on that. It takes almost 6 months to a year, so we'll know quite a ways in advance. Right now, we're looking good, okay? And, it's tried to settle off because all these the new toilets come in, they're, less water and all, but we're seeing more come from that.
Council Bogan?
Just a quick question on the projects.
Sure.
You've got the size of the pipe as like 2-inch, 8-inch, 8-inch, 8-inch. Do we replace it in kind with 2-inch, 8-inch, 8-inch? Or is that the size of the pipe you're gonna put in?
Correct. Correct. This is the one that we're
Way is
going to
correct.
put in. The second one. What's listed is what we are going to put in. So for example, Driftwood, it's 6-inch pipe now, and it only serves 5 houses. So there's no need for that large pipe. Like the person at the end has had issues with poor water quality because that pipe sits there. So if we put in a 2-inch pipe, it's more likely to get turned over.
And we don't foresee any development further? Off the top of my head, I can't think of Driftwood.
Driftwood's off of, excuse me, off of Old North Main, and there's only, I think, 3 houses off that road, and then there's 2 off of Old North Main.
So no further expansion?
Correct. There's a beach, and that's it down there. That's the end of that road.
Steve, when there are big developments going in, like White Oaks Road, for example, okay, and we can always talk to the city planner. We're looking at that, when the city planning board gets involved with Ben, and they're looking at, if they're gonna expand into that, do we do this or do we do that, and what else can we do there? So we're trying, as the road's torn up, but we're doing something, trying to add more to it.
Yes. I was just, because the reason why I asked this question is I know like over where Elm Street and North Main Street and all that, there's some undersized piping in there and stuff. And I was just curious if we take that into account as we try to do these things where it's undersized if that 260 acres gets
If that
developed.
260 acres gets, it's a whole different ballgame than the size pipe that's there at North Main Street.
For example, though,
Right.
you're talking the state school. So we're looking at Old North Main this fall, where they're gonna do a portion of it. We have a section of 10-inch pipe from that small pump station that used to go to across the road to the state school. From there up to Parade Road, we're gonna install 12-inch pipe, which would be sufficient for a water tower. If, as Bob says, if they come in and they wanna do more work, we have 12-inch on Elm Street. We'll now have 12-inch on Old North Main. They would have to do from
It's just
Elm
that
through
short
Anthony.
section.
Yeah. So
Okay, cool.
Basically, we're getting anything that's needing to be paved and repaired, we're gonna do the work up to that for that future plan. We don't, if it needs to be more than 12-inch, and that's a whole nother, that's coming all the way back to, Fratello's. You know,
Yep.
that's a whole different ballgame, but,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the questions.
it's all right.
Got it right.
Any other questions?
Counselor Cheney?
I hate demonstrating my ignorance, but here I go. I looked at your other charges, which include depreciation. I understand a profit-making corporation writing off depreciation. What is the purpose in here?
To balance.
So, the reason we have it in here too, that's how we figure our capital budget. So by
Second.
depreciating the assets we have, we take
Yeah.
that number, that 889,000, we subtract out our bond payments, which are basically on the depreciated items, and then add in our net net gain or subtract loss, depending on which one it is. And what's left over is what we use for our capital improvement. So we're saying we're depreciating X number of dollars of existing assets. This is what we have left to then continue to rebuild the system. It's one that I'll be honest, I don't fully understand it. We've had the auditors come in a few times and tried to kind of explain it to the board members as well, where it's a non-cash expense. We're not giving $889,000 to anybody. It's just,
That's why I'm trying to understand why it's
Yeah.
even here.
Was,
I would say,
Glenn, if I can remember right, I think the auditors brought that up and made us put that in a few years ago.
right, it is just simply a way of just tracking the value of the assets they have in the ground and how those assets deteriorate over time. I will say, it's in the budget, but when we calculate, what's needed in the budget resolution you're going to see tonight, depreciation isn't in that number that you approve. Because it is, as you say, it's a non-cash item, so we back that out, so it doesn't go into, the number that you approve at all.
Forgive me, I guess I'll go talk to an accountant, another accountant who
There are some things,
has times.
there's
I
some
do-
things the auditors make us
Talk to
do,
them
leave me
later.
scratching my head too.
Well, I guess
there
that's
you
what,
go.
yeah, this is not a complaint about you, it's,
Yeah.
I need hours to try and understand this. If this was a profit-making organization, I'd understand perfectly. but I don't understand what it accomplishes for a municipal.
Well,
Water
the
company.
special revenues funds are designed to be business type activities. And so that's why you'll see a depreciation here, you'll also see it in the sanitary sewer fund, because it operates under the same set of rules. But for example, motorcycle week fund, you won't see depreciation there.
Yeah.
But I think when they set these up, it was to mirror what a business would do.
Okay. Thanks.
Counselor Susie, did you have something?
No, I was gonna talk to Council Cheney, but I'll do that
All right.
separately.
Counselor Felch, let's, if we can keep this, we
Yep,
have two
no.
others.
So Ben, your staff, a lot of it needs certifications and training. Can you give the council an idea of how many hours training and whether, I know you probably pay for the training, but do they also get paid hourly if they're on an hourly salary while they're at training?
Yep, so anybody that has a Waterworks operator license, which we require all of our distribution and treatment operators to have, we require an entry level, which is a grade 1 of either or treatment or distribution, where they are. They have to have 20 hours every 2 years, so 10 hours a year. It's pretty minimal. There's seminars, there's construction days, there's online classes you can take. And yes, we do pay for all of that because it's on company time. They schedule them during weekdays. People aren't going out other than, unless you take a larger course, you might be going somewhere or taking a day here and there. But our facility itself, both distribution and treatment, is a grade 3, so at least one person on staff has to have those certifications. I have both the treatment plant, water quality supervisor, he has both. Then I also have one person on distribution with a 3 and one person on treatment with a 3. So we do have them
And how many hours do they
backed
need?
up. That's still the same. So that's
Is it still 20?
Yep. As long as you have it, it's 20 hours for both. So like I have both certificates. I still only need 20 hours. It's not 40. It doesn't matter the grade level. It's basically once you're in it, you got it.
Well,
It's
as
similar
you-
to a
As you know, I have my certification, that's why I asked.
Yep.
but-
Yep.
Anyone else?
Maybe he could take the entry level.
Yeah, I've got some job descriptions here if you're looking for.
Be below entry level.
Okay, Ben,
All
I
right.
guess,
Well done,
seeing
Ben.
no other questions, thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the planning department. Rob Moore. Rob, I'll ask you the same question. You want to go through your presentation, or do you want to be interrupted?
You can interrupt me,
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I have some PowerPoint handouts, I don't know if you gentlemen have
Yep.
copies of it, but I brought some just in case.
What part of the book are you gonna be working out of?
So,
Steve, it's attached to.
conservation's budget is on your budget book, page 33, and planning's is on page 55. So this is my first budget presentation, so I kind of thought I would go through a little bit of overview of the planning department and then run through some of our responsibilities, and then kind of hit on some of the things we've done, where we're looking to go, and then the quick overview of our budget, and then followed up with some statistics that we have, and then leave some room for comments and questions at the end.
Just looking for the index.
56.
I knew that.
So first of all, our planning department has had a massive turnover in the last year. I myself started in January. We then got our assistant planner, Tyler, who's here with me, in February. We then hired an administrative assistant in March, and we have a conservation person starting tomorrow, hopefully. So for a staff of 5 full-time people, we had quite a few new faces come in. So hopefully it'll be just about 2 years that we've not been fully manned, that we will finally be at 100% staffing. So it'll be great. Hopefully we can move a lot of things forward. So, department responsibilities. Planning. We prepare, revise, and implement new zoning ordinances, tables, and regulations. Investigate, study, and report on all matters related to land use within the city. Prepare and oversee the updates of all long-range planning documents, including the master plan, the capital improvement plan, and our official zoning map. We also do enforcement of the zoning ordinance. We interpret and enforce provisions of the zoning ordinance, subdivision, and site plan regulations. review all building permit applications to determine they meet the criteria established within our zoning ordinance, land use regulations, and approvals granted by various land use boards. We also work with the city's legal counsel to ensure the enforcement process is carried out in accordance with state law. Further, we're working on really getting our foothold in community development, and that's working to improve, foster, and maintain the housing, economic, and physical development of the city, enhance the quality of life for low and moderate income residents and for all citizens, and administer the Weirs, Downtown, and Lakeport TIFs, and provide technical and staff support to their respective boards. Within the planning department, we also oversee the Special Events Review Committee. We are the chair of that organization, and we administer the application process and work with departments to ensure that all these special events are executed in accordance with the conditions of their approvals. We also manage a variety of land use boards, and we maintain the property files and subdivision plans and site plans for all the approvals that come through. Some of the boards I'll touch on are Planning Board, Zoning Board, our Historic Overlay District Commission, Conservation Commission, the 3 TIFs, of course, our Special Events Review Committee, Lakes Region Planning Commission, our Master Plan Steering Committee, our Technical Review Committee, and Capital Improvement Committee. So far,
Heritage Commission.
Heritage Commission actually falls under the Code Department.
Oh, okay.
So our ordinance updates. So since I've been in downstairs, we have done 2 updates. We rezoned a portion of Old Prescott Hill Road, which I have on that page, on that PowerPoint I provided. And we've also added in unsafe structures. I've added the language in there, and that's under 23539A within our zoning ordinance. That update was actually discussed last year at our budget committee, at our budget hearing, but we finally got it done now. So we are working on a plethora of items down in the planning department. You might have heard one of them, impact fees. We have reviewed our impact fees. We've reached out to a few organizations or firms to give us some quotes of what it would cost to update that. So we're working on that. Other items that we're working on, performance zoning, our housing and redevelopment overlay district, special events and outdoor assembly ordinance, our historic overlay district, and currently at planning board right now is our rules and procedures, which will then allow us to formally adopt our master plan steering committee, which will then allow us to actually move something forward with our master plan. So we're striving for that one. That's a big push right there. Demolition permits, subdivision regulations, site plan regulations. I would like to hit on the subdivision and site plan regulations. The last time these were updated in a significant way was 2009 and 2015. And obviously there's a lot of stuff that changes in land use. And if you're not up with the times, then you're really falling behind. So those are 2 significant documents that we really need to update so we can really do some great development and great land use planning. So on that, we have our minor site division, subdivision regulations under that. Our sign ordinance, which also needs some massive renovation. We're also talking about casino usage being plausibly added, some accessory dwelling unit ordinance updates, updates to the short-term lodging ordinance, and building permits on private and unaccepted roads. And lastly, our fee schedule, which last time it was looked at was in 2009, with the exception of when we added in our short-term lodging permit, which was a few years ago, 2019, when we adopted that, and we added in the permit fee for that, which was $250. So, our department goals. First and foremost is our master plan. So this year, we have requested $100,000 from via Senator Shaheen's office and Congressman Chris Pappas' office. It wouldn't be $200,000, it's $100,000 between them is how we can work that through the Codell project with the federal government. So hopefully, when the federal government adopts their budget this year, they'll adopt a portion and it'll allow us to have $100,000 to put towards the development of our master plan. So with that, we want to update our land use chapter and our vision statement, which should be updated every, was it 5 to 7? Every 5 years, according to the state RSA. And we already have a natural resources chapter, but we're also looking to add in a housing and economic development, energy, transportation, and natural hazards chapter. And then the most important part of that is adding in the implementation plan, which will then give us the roadmap to how we carry everything out in that master plan that hopefully will be updated. Processes that we have recently updated, a more accurate way of tracking all of our applications that go through both zoning board and planning board, making sure that as-built are completed on a regular time basis, on the time frame they're needed. Final plans are submitted to the planning department, and making sure that we're appropriately tracking impact fees that are imposed during any approval at planning board. We've also been working with DPW and legal on our unaccepted street policy, and we're trying to coordinate now, working with various departments, including code and DPW, on tracking violations and enforcement issues around the city, so we have a better picture overall of not what's going on in just our department, but in everybody's department, because most likely we have a piece of the pie that they might not have. So linking us all into one will give us a better foothold and understanding of what's going on and how we can rectify issues moving forward. We've also revised our schedule for our technical review committee to allow us more time to review applications that go before planning board. So we've changed our submittal dates and pushed back our TRC date, so we have an extra week and a half to review applications. I think, as we've seen in the city, there's a lot of complex developments that come in, and we felt like we were kind of shortchanging ourselves with not having the appropriate time to review every application that came in. So making those changes gave us an extra maybe a week and a couple days to review everything. And then that ties us all into the community developer and how that can really enhance our department if the city so chose to pursue getting one in the future, is that we could work with them in refining our zoning ordinance to make sure that everything matches that master plan and our economic development, and what it takes for us to help developers come here and for us to develop housing that supports every resident in the city. So if we can move on to the budget, which is really pretty short. Overall, there's a net decrease of $3,000 in our budget. There's a few items, training, that increased in costs. Our public notices and our postage increased, kind of just due with the amount of postage and the developments that have been coming in that we have to notice everybody, and postings to the paper. The costs have gone up. Does anybody have any questions regarding? Yes, sir.
Yes, I do. May I? Under notices, year-to-date, as of April, I had a report ran, and it's saying under that year-to-date expenditure is $8,820, which is almost $4,000 in the hole.
Correct.
And I'm looking here in the budget, and we're only allocating $7,000. So that to me says I'm starting in the hole already if I'm reading the numbers correctly, and I can only assume this is already old, so that minus number is even larger now. So A, why? And B, what are notices? What are we noticing so that it's exploded so highly? Because it seems like every other year it goes up and down.
So notices are anything that comes in for a public hearing, and it's very fluid. It's based off of how many applications we see, planning board applications, zoning board applications that need public notice. So it could vary depending on, I think you'll see in our couple sheets forward that our applications that we've processed has actually diminished. But the postage has gone up, so it's very dynamic.
So,
So, in my original budget that I did request, I requested, I think it was $10,000.
but is that notices also paid by the applicants? When they do that, they have to pay a fee for the notices because that's part of their package of,
Yes. So the notices, there's a cost of postage that we give to that we impose on the developer, that they pay $10 per butter, correct?
so I don't see if that's income coming in, shouldn't it balance between the two? So it's kind of like net zero
So I did ask,
theory? Yeah,
in theory, you're correct. I do not have the revenue that we've taken in for applications and for postage. I don't know if finance tracks that by any chance.
Revenue planning. Yeah, we estimate revenue planning at about 50,000, so it's shown up in your revenue page under 46.
Under 46?
Yeah, estimated revenue.
About maybe 10 lines up from the bottom.
So does those two lines equal themselves out then?
Would more than
It's
that.
kind of like the other problem with the, in the water department where depreciation and stuff. It should be
It would more than, because
number
it's
to
more than
balance
just
each
that for
other out.
revenue, so it would more than balance it out.
The revenue does more than make up for the cost of the notice. There's also
That's
other
another-
costs associated as part of that. That's
Okay,
correct.
so it's kind of like we are taking that number of notices as an expenditure, and it's paid for by a subset of that 50,000 in
Which you
revenue.
would not see on your, on the line you're looking at with how much we've spent year to date, wouldn't show up.
So it's not actually adding to the operating
No.
budget per se?
No.
It's like a, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Does everyone on the council know Tyler? Oh, okay. You didn't introduce your
sorry.
assistant.
So this is Tyler. He's my brand new assistant planner. He is coming from the state, and he was the state's. He worked with me at the Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services. He was the state energy manager. So he is a great asset to the city, and we're looking to add that energy chapter to our master plan. And he is the person that we needed for that. He is also spearheading, looking for grants that we are open to. I think that we missed a lot of opportunities in asking for grants for planning studies that we could have within the city. So I'm hoping that with his knowledge and his abilities, that we will be able to move forward with some of that and really get a great master plan.
Thanks, Rob. Welcome, Tyler.
So is there any other questions referring to the budget?
I have one other question along what Steve was talking about. Our fees that we charge the developers, let's say, for coming in, have those been revised or upgraded recently?
Not since 2009.
So how do we get that on the agenda?
I have that as on my list of priorities. So that is something that we are working on. We have, I think on my desk, I have about 12 different communities' fee schedules, and we're analyzing all of that, and every community is different, of course. So it's, one size doesn't fit all, but that is something that we're working on.
Sure.
If
Go ahead.
possible, just as an example, last week, we met, the finance committee met with the fire department on EMS billing. And they gave us a spreadsheet outlining numbers of different towns and what they, and we ended up being right, basically in the middle. Could we see something like that when you move forward?
Absolutely, you can, absolutely. That is how I plan on doing the complete analysis with it, so you'll absolutely get that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. The conservation budget has no proposed changes to it this year. The conservation technician position is actually funded through the planning department. I just put on there some interesting statistics. I put number of zoning board applications, special event applications, and planning board applications. we've processed by fiscal year over the last 3 years. So 2024 is not exact for the end of the year because it was taken at the end of April. But zoning, I guess, we pretty much on average with everything. And then I went back the last 3 fiscal years looking at approvals for units of housing. And I thought that was a really good indicator of how strong we are as a community in getting developers in here. On average, we have at least over 100 new housing units that come in each year that are approved by planning board. This year to date, from January 1st to now, planning board has approved 85 units of housing. We still have several projects in the pipeline, so that could be an additional 129. That's just what we're aware of currently. So I think that's looking great for us. And there's a few big projects that are ongoing right now. We're getting ready to start up. Langley Cove, which has been talked about for the last 10, 15 years, is finally looking to start. So that'll be almost 300 units, which will be great for us. And then Governor's Crossing, their second phase is finally building out. So next time you have an opportunity to drive down Endicott, take a look at it. It's a lot of dirt out there moving around. Questions about housing at all? I just had some snapshots of some pictures. We went out and talked to a lot of developers, and we just thought we'd add in the pictures of everything that we did just for this. The Lookout for Laconia, they were, it's beautiful out there. There's a lot of great development out there. They even had a putting green that they were very happy to walk us around and show us up at their little community center that they're building. I wish I golfed more than what I do. Next we have the White Oaks Preserve out on White Oaks Road, followed by a picture of the Governor's Crossing I was just talking about. And then the bottom right is the gardens that's starting up where it's been going for like the last year and a half out on Endicott, just past the roundabout on the right as you're going up across from the substation. And then the last sheet is the Providence Street Apartments, the 90 units going in there. We went out, Tyler and I, a week or so ago, and we met with the site manager, and he walked us through one of the buildings, and we walked the whole site. It's a great project. We've been working with the state on getting some things ironed out for the water line to go in, so things are looking very positive there. That's really the summary of my project. Is there anything that I can answer or go over for anybody?
Council Felch.
I just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done and are doing. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. It is fantastic working for the city again, and I have a great staff, and I really feel like we are making some strong changes, and I can't wait to see what we do in the next year.
Councilor Bogart.
I just wanted to say thank you. I got a report that I guess you
Right.
processed, and I found it very interesting, and it helps, and when I get questions and stuff out from the public, so I wanted to thank you for that report, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you continued with that report, at least maybe monthly, to give us some viewpoints on what's happening.
You got it, and that is, I've been talking about that at planning board, and that is one of my ultimate goals is, I said, I think it is so important that we relay to everybody what we do each month, because I think a lot of the times people don't understand what we do in the planning department, and they don't understand everything that's going on, because there's a lot of moving parts in the city, and there's a lot of great things happening, and it's our chance to share that with everybody. So, yes, we look forward to continuing that, and we'll probably, hopefully add to that in the months to come.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, Rob, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Next, we have the Code Department, Joe Gray.
I didn't put out my presentation because I wasn't sure I had to. But I'm gonna find it on here.
Anybody, you know, I'm sorry.
Enough money to hold
It starts
30.
20, it starts 29,
30, yeah.
on page 29,
29?
the budget book.
So again, it's code department, thank you for tonight. My first year doing this, so I'm kind of new at it, so bear with me as we go through it. First slide is like meet the team. I'm the Joseph Gray, the Director of Code Enforcement. I've got two other employees, Jennifer Place, who's Administrative Assistant. Some of her primary functions are to provide customer service over the phone and in person, and answers questions to the public about the permit process, and prepares building permit applications and distributes them to the necessary departments. Provides permits, notifies the application for pickup, and schedules and tracks all the inspections. If you can see the work she's got, you can't really see it so well, but there's a lot of work just getting one permit through the system for each different departments. It can be upwards to 50 to 60 pages for each department. So one of our goals this year is really looking at some new software that's gonna eliminate this paper trail, so we don't waste all this paper just to throw it away when it gets back for the approval when we only need the one sheet. She's been really good with getting all of our documents up to par, all the wording correct. She's a big asset to our team. She's only been on here for about 6 months, so I just gave her a 6-month review. Been a huge impact to the team, very organized, detailed. She does work with the Heritage Commission and works with that team as well. Then we have Jeff Monnier, who just started. He used to work at the school as an aide. He did have some housing experience, so we brought him on to do the housing inspections. He's done really well so far, caught on really quick. Got great feedback from the public. I'll show you that in a few minutes. He settles all the code and landlord disputes with safety and quality of life issues. He performs property maintenance enforcement, short-term rental inspections, multifamily housing inspections, and he's an assistant to myself and Jen, so he's got a big plate to fulfill as well. And some of the things he's been working on, if you remember Country Club Road, the mess that used to be out there, and you can see what it looked like before. It was a disaster. It was complaint after complaint. After a little work, it's basically all cleaned up. And some of the other things is, there's a mess over here to the left-hand slide. They cleaned it up, and then we got a response from the people saying thanks for the speedy response. So we're getting good feedback from the people in the community. I know is the little short time he's been here, he knows quite a few people in the area, and he's handled quite a few cases, and they've all been pleasant. Nobody's been really upset. So, and usually when you start getting into this stuff, they kind of push back. And, you can't tell us what to do with our property, but it's not just your property. Everybody's got to look at it at the same time. So we're trying to make it better for everybody. So he's got a few other projects in place that he's working on right now. I didn't want to bog this whole thing down with a bunch of different slides on what he does. And then it's myself. This is the team, lead and direct. I review all the building, electrical, and demolition permits prior to issuance, provide customer service, answer code questions to the public, and help them through their projects, meet with project managers, architects, engineers, and assist them with their code requirements, and I perform all the required building inspections to ensure it meets today's code. Some of the things that we're working on right now, is the gardens and the Court Street East. I don't want to repeat what Rob just put up here, but here's just some snapshots of the bigger projects that we're working on. They've got 17 done out of 84 so far on this project. You got Lake Life with their condos up on the hill. Like you said, the putting green and that clubhouse is pretty phenomenal. If you could stop by and take a look at that, they got some nice beam work inside there. That's just, it's amazing. And then they got the Providence Street apartments. There's a couple different slides there. I did take Manager Biardi out with me one day to walk through, and because when you see a plan in front of you, you can't really concept what it's going to look like until you get there. And there was a lot of different things that they made so it looked like a nice little house. They had recessed door, entry doors, and stuff like that. So it's not just a cookie cutter squared house. It actually looks pretty good. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I'm missing my other slide. Missing the other slide. Well, I'm missing the slide with my budget for this year. The budget for this year is gonna stay exactly the same as it was last year. There's no increase to the budget, and, yeah. I wanna where that slide went. But yeah, there's no major increase, no increase at all to our budget. We feel that we could do our job next year with the same amount of money that we handled last year and, be good.
I have a question.
Questions for,
For the
Counselor
city.
Susie?
City manager, if his budget number is the same this year as last year, how are you handling the salary increases and stuff?
Because of the change in personnel, so newer personnel versus older personnel, that's where the offset comes.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Bogart?
This is gonna probably go to the city manager, but take a shot at it. On outside contracts, line item 304, year-to-date expenditures $5,363, and it's not a budgeted item, and it's not in our budget this year, so would I assume that it's gonna be zero?
That's
Or,
outside
because
contract.
the actual expenditure is 5,003, which wasn't budgeted for
Yeah,
either.
that's what I think some of that would have come probably, planning probably has some in there as well as code, when we had the outside,
Contractor.
contractor come in to,
Pay
take over
for the outside
yeah,
contractor?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just want to make a
Sure.
quick comment. I don't get the chance to do this too often, but I just want to make a comment for both planning and code. I've had more unsolicited compliments in the last 2 or 3 months than I have in a long time, for the ease of working with both those departments. Whether person looking for the help gets the answer they want or not, they're understanding that they're doing a ton of work downstairs for them to get them to where they need to be. And, just walking down the street, I've had contractors come up and say, hey, just worked with one of their departments, and so it's nice to get those, and I wanted to pass it along.
Sure, thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Joe? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, unless there's any other business, seeing none, the special budget meeting is adjourned at 6:57.